Full screen for this one. Strange Meeting, quite an extraordinary poem. Probably one of the bigger ones that we have considered at this time. So, if you're interested in really delivering a unique insight into your essay, both here in the trial and in the real HSC, I would not steer away from Strange Meeting. I would really make sure that I get a profound and deep understanding of this particular poem. It is probably central to Owen's work. Dolce being exceptionally famous, most people know about it. Insensibility being detailed, but Strange Meeting is Owen at his literary best. If it was his only work, he would be considered a master. So let's get into this one. Here we have the opening parts of Strange Meeting and some of the ideas that go on with it. Just to let you know how important and valuable this is, this guy here, T.S. Eliot, I'll just move myself over here. T.S. Eliot is possibly one of my favourite poets, the poem I love the most, J. Alfred Prufrock, written by this man. And obviously you can see he's a contemporary of the era. This is in the 1920s. He was around in the 20s and 30s. And he said that this poem is the technical achievement of great originality and one of the most moving pieces of verse inspired by the war. And you can tell that the terminology here, the war, means that he's referring to World War One. There's no other war to talk about. It became so big that it just became the catchcry for the term war at the time of these contemporary gentlemen. So, it seemed that out of battle I escaped down some profound, dull tunnel, long since scooped through granites which titanic wars had groined. The early part of it starts in the normal, but he moves immediately into an alien or different environment, which is key also to the question that you're being asked to deal with in the essay. But look at the language already. Dull tunnel, which is dark in this situation, not dull as in boring, but no light. He's going into a place which is an unknown. But then you get this through granites, which titanic wars had groined. Okay, there's a scar on the earth through what the wars have done to this area. But these three lines really only set us up to what is about to happen here. Yet also their encumbered sleepers groaned, too fast in thought or death to be bestirred. Then, as I probed them, one sprang up and stared with piteous recognition in fixed eyes, lifting distressful hands as if to bless, and by his smile I knew that sullen hall, by his dead smile I knew we stood in hell. This creature is described in pretty profound language, piteous recognition in fixed eyes. An interesting line, that one. And this gives us a hint as to what might be going on here. If this is a creature that Owen has come across before, is it a soldier that Owen has killed? A soldier of the enemy? One theory. Is it a remnant of the devil or Jesus? Second theory. Or is this poem actually existential? Is this Owen's other? Is this the other self? In this way, this poem is much more like a romantic poem than any of the others. And by romantic, I mean the era of Shelley and characters like that who were interested in the concept of the other. Think about Shelley's wife, Mary Shelley, Percy Shelley's wife, who, of course, created the ultimate book about the other, the ultimate romantic text, which is Frankenstein. I think that's a horror text, but by romantic, I mean the era of writing, not love. Okay? Lifting distressful hands as if to bless, and by his smile I knew that sullen hall, by his dead smile. Repetition of smile, reminding that the smile is not joyful. Distressful hands. Okay, you've got this broken character already. But then, of course, we get this, I knew we stood in hell. Dante. Let's have a look at some of the things that Dante has considered. This is Dante's vision of hell. Limbo, lust, gluttony, greed, anger, heresy, violence, fraud, and treachery, the 9 circles of hell. You can look this up yourself, of course, and I thoroughly recommend you do. It will give you a fantastic insight into how lots of literature works, how horror movies work, all these kinds of things. If we come down to circle 7 here, you've got violence, and that is an area of boiling blood. And blood is a big motif in Owen's work. Okay, the rest are all to do, apart from limbo, which is a type of purgatory, the rest are all to do with the deadly sins, of course. So let's go back here for a moment. This image as well is from Dante's Inferno of the damned souls in hell. And you see the darkness here, the dullness here, and the 2 characters walking, and then a recognition. Look at that. This character sitting up and recognising the character who's moving into hell. The idea of the other, the idea of the alienated, the idea of the existential is played out even in this simple lithograph as we go. So let's go back to the poem itself. With 1,000 fears that vision face was greyed, yet no blood reached there from the upper ground, no guns thumped, or down the flues made moan. So now we are in an alien and different environment. The old world has drained away and disappeared. Strange friend, I said, here is no cause to mourn. None, said that other. There's that word other. Save the undone years, the hopelessness. Whatever hope is yours, my life was also. I went hunting wild after the wildest beauty in the world, which lies not calm in eyes or braided hair, but mocks the steady running of the hour. And if it grieves richlier than here. For by my glee might many men have laughed, and of my weeping something had been left, which must die now. I mean the truth untold, the pity of war, the pity war distilled. And it comes down to this word here, distilled, okay? The idea that all of this that has happened, all hope, all life that is common, all ideas of youth and humanity have been distilled down to nothing more than pity. Because the war has basically stolen all of this from both Owen and the other. Now men will go content with what we spoiled, or discontent, boil bloody. There's your boiling blood, and be spilled. They will be swift with swiftness of the tigress. None will break ranks. No nations trek from progress. Courage was mine, and I had mystery. Wisdom was mine, and I had mastery. To miss the march of this retreating world into vain citadels that are not walled. Then, when much blood had clogged their chariot wheels, I would go up and wash them from sweet wells, even with truths that lie too deep for taint. I would have poured my spirit without stint, but not through wounds, not on the cess of war. Foreheads of men have bled where no wounds were. You get religious imagery, Roman imagery here. Is this Jesus that we're speaking about here? Because a lot of this imagery is relating, of course, to miraculous and the idea of the miraculous in Jesus. I'm an enemy you killed, my friend. I knew you in this dark, for you so frowned yesterday through me as you jabbed and killed. So here we get clarification that very much it's likely to be a German soldier, an enemy soldier. But again, the idea of the existential mustn't be dismissed, okay, because the enemy can be the innocent Owen, the old Owen, who is unfamiliar with the nightmare of wars. I parried, but my hands were loath and cold. Let us sleep now. So let's think about these few lines here and this line there. I'll give you some time. So when we come to this section here, now men will go content with what we spoiled, or discontent, boil-blooded and be spilled. Courage was mine, I had mastery. All this is about sacrifice. All this is about how blood has been spilt for truth. Foreheads of men have bled where known wounds were. You could even argue that this has a psychological meaning as well as the meaning relating to Christ in the Garden of Gethsemane. But it is a mental wound here. I would have poured my spirit without stint. To pour one's spirit is very religious, very much Old Testament stuff. God pouring his spirit over the world to redeem it of its sins and so forth. So all of this is sacrifice. All of this relates very clearly to that sort of biblical imagery of sacrifice, loss, death, and blood. But the war has forced this on them. It's an interesting poem, nonetheless, for you to use. Now, if you were to use it in your essay, clearly we get the other world, the alienated world. What do we get about the human condition? What do we learn about humanity? Or Owen is trying to force an idea onto us. Well, really that to distill humanity down into one package, and that is World War One, we learn that really the sacrifice for violence has created and encumbered more violence. To kill the enemy is to kill the self. So the war is therefore, much like Owen has put in other parts of his poetry, a futile endeavour, one that has caused very little progress in terms of humanity. So it's quite the lament in this sense, and hence Owen appears to be in hell. Where else would he be after such a sin against the human race? And he feels that he's been part of that sort of sin self.